You're listening to the Communications Business Advisor podcast, the podcast for communications professionals in the corporate world who are committed to advancing their work and our field's reputation as critical business advisors that are not only invited to the decision-making table, but are required there. I'm your host, Tara McDonagh. Hello, and welcome back to the Communications Business Advisor podcast. I'm your host, Tara McDonagh, and today I'm going to address something that I've been hearing a lot lately. It's pretty much everywhere I turn, and it is giving me some serious, no, don't buy into that vibes. I hope I didn't scare you with that. But it sounds a bit like this. Long-term planning doesn't work anymore. Or, how do you build a 3-year strategy when everything changes every 3 weeks? It's a waste of time. Or, my executive team won't give me time for a planning conversation. We're just trying to get through day to day, surviving. I get it. Seriously, I get it. The world is worlding, and we're all feeling it. But I'm still going to say something that you might not want to hear. You know I'm committed to telling it to you straight, so I hope you take it okay. Long-term planning isn't dead. You've just been given permission to stop doing it, and some of you took it. That's what this episode is about, and the danger that follows from that decision. But first, before we get into the heavy stuff, a quick update. If you're a communications leader who's been doing the work mostly alone, that doesn't have to be the case. My CBA Counsel program is exactly what it sounds like. A senior communications voice in your corner, not just for the big stuff, but for the decisions you're making every single week, the decisions that add up to your reputation and your authority. If that sounds like something you need, head to taramcdonagh.com, link in the show notes. Send me a note and ask me about the Communications Business Advisor Council program. Okay, here we go. Let me be fair to the argument first, to not do long-term planning. Because it's not crazy, and it's being made by some genuinely smart people. Communications influencers and leaders, friends, people I respect, people who know this field. Many of them are saying that short-term planning and pivoting well is what matters right now. Do the right thing in the moment for your organization. Stay agile. Don't get locked into a plan because the environment's going to blow it up anyway, and you'll just be wasting your time. You probably can name people that you've seen this written about on LinkedIn. I have friends that have been saying it. And some of the people out there, we agree on a lot, but not on this. Because here's what I've heard too much of lately, at a frequency that has moved well past concerning to me. Communications leaders, they're deciding that because the world is worlding, and it is, I know it is, a long-term strategy isn't worth building anymore. Tariffs, geopolitical instability, restructuring mid-year, I get it. But smart people are saying it, and it's the right call, are not the same thing. Let me ask you something. When your CFO is navigating an uncertain financial environment, do they stop forecasting? When your CEO doesn't know exactly what the market's going to do in 18 months, do they stop setting goals? Does sales just go out and see what happens? No. They plan. They build against multiple possible futures, weigh them, and make decisions based on where the probabilities land. They stay agile within a framework. They don't abandon the framework. And here's the thing. Your organization's core purpose, it has not changed. Your company is still selling the same product or delivering the same service it was before all of this volatility started. The what probably hasn't changed. What's changed is the how, the paths to grow, the markets being prioritized, the partnerships being reconsidered, the workforce decisions being made. That's not a reason to stop planning communications. That's the reason communications planning is more important than ever strategic communications planning, because someone needs to be translating those business pivots into coherent messaging for employees, for executives, for audiences, for the organization's reputation. That's your job, and you can't do that reactively. We talk about that all the time, right? Some may argue that project plans or campaign plans are enough here, and hard nope to that. That's what I have to say. The connected thinking, seeing the full picture, that's absolutely critical in this field. And you can't do that kind of thinking with individual campaigns or projects that just pop up. You'll miss something. And you can only hope it won't be something huge. I want to name what actually happens when you stop long-term strategic planning. Let's just, for the sake of argument, call it annual planning. That's the shortest amount of time I would call a long-term plan. Because I've heard it enough now that it's moved past concerning to genuinely alarming. Too many communications leaders have decided that because the environment is volatile, a long-term strategy isn't worth building. And the worlding gives them just enough cover to feel okay about that decision. And I get it, but here's what you're actually choosing when you make that decision. You are choosing a world full of junk. Not metaphorically, practically. Because when there's no strategic framework, everything feels equally urgent. Every request from every executive has the same weight. Every reactive moment pulls you fully off course because there's no course to return to. You're just moving. And moving fast isn't the same as moving strategically. You're also choosing how you're perceived. And this is the part that should matter to you if you care about your career in the field. Communications leaders, let's for the sake of the argument here, say director, senior director, VP level, SVP level. Communications leaders who operate without a plan, no matter how talented they are, and hear that again, no matter how talented they are, get perceived as excellent executors, not critical advisors. The organization experiences you as someone who responds well, not someone who sees around corners. And that perception has consequences. It affects whether you get pulled in before decisions are made or after. It affects whether your budget requests land. It affects whether your team gets the resources it needs. It affects your path to the next level and the one after that. Yes, pivoting well matters. No question. No argument for me. It absolutely matters, and it matters a ton. But you can't pivot well if you don't know what you're pivoting from. Agility without a strategic anchor isn't agility. It's just reaction with good instincts, we hope. Good instincts aren't strategy. So let's get practical for a minute, because I'm not just here to tell you what's wrong. I want to give you something you can actually use. If you don't know your business strategy right now, and I mean really know it, get curious. That's the first move. Not scenario planning, not building the communications calendar full of tactics. Curiosity. Start asking questions. What are the financial goals for this year, and how have they shifted? What's the growth plan, and what's changed about it? Where's leadership placing its bets right now? What decisions are being made that haven't been announced yet? You should be in on those conversations. I mean, I know I don't have an argument from you guys there. If you're not in those decisions, if you're not in those conversations, that's worth understanding too. Because being outside of them is information about where perception of communications is in your organization right now. Better yet, bring someone smart in this field who can think alongside you. I shared in the last episode how judgment sharpens in dialogue. In the right room with the right people, getting clear on your business strategy and what it means for communications is exactly one of those moments. You don't have to figure it out alone. And frankly, trying to figure it out on your own is how you end up with a strategy that makes sense in your head, but doesn't connect to what your business actually needs. This is one of those opportunities to sharpen your judgment, and it's worth taking seriously. So what does good long-term planning actually look like in this environment? Because I'm not telling you to build a pristine 3-year plan and present it to your executive team with a bow on it. I mean, it makes great fiction, but let's operate in reality here. Start from the business strategy, even the messy version. Your company has financial goals. It has a growth path, even a revised one or one with 2 or 3 paths to growth. There are decisions about whether to grow through acquisition, through partnerships, through a new product line, or geographic expansion. Your organization has priorities that are more stable than the news cycle suggests. Start there. And knowing what you know, what does communications need to do to support those goals? Not the tactics, the strategic role communications will play. Your objectives won't change. Some of your strategies might, and your tactics most definitely will. The emphasis on certain audiences might shift, but they're still your audiences. Channels will likely stay the same unless you're already moving towards something new that you're building or buying. And measurement goals might change, but having goals in the first place, that's absolutely critical. Adjust and communicate those adjustments. Just like how revised financial guidance sets the tone for investors of a public company, your revised strategy brings your team and the executives along in the journey. Build from what you know. Then pivot when decisions get made that require it. If the plan was to grow internationally and that's shifting to a domestic strategy, understand how that'll happen and adjust your plan. If new products are delayed to market, have a scenario ready that shows how you'd pivot to align with your sales strategy for that product. Scenario planning isn't hedging, it's just sophistication. It shows your executive team that you're understanding the business well enough to think ahead of it. And I'll tell you this from personal experience. I once planned a cross-functional communication strategy over the course of a year. Yes, a full year that addressed a massive company risk. The strategy, the messaging, the tactics, all of it was ready to execute. And yet we all hoped that we'd never have to execute it because it was a business risk, not an opportunity. We were planning for a crisis that we hoped would never occur. There was no pivoting our way through something like that. We needed time, thought, energy, cross-functional thinking, and the strength of an approach that only a real plan could give us. And it worked really well. You cannot convince me that planning is unnecessary after that experience. So plan with both a shorter horizon and a longer lens. Your detailed execution plan might only go out 3 months because that's what the environment allows. But your strategic lens, who you're trying to be as a communications function, what authority you're building, what relationships you're investing in, who you're communicating with and about what, that doesn't change with volatility. That's the long-term part. Keep it and document it. Which brings me to the next episode. Because the strategy that's still living in your head is a whole different problem we need to address. I want to name something directly before I close, though. The communications leaders that I work with who have the most authority inside their organizations are not the ones with the most bandwidth. They're definitely not the ones whose environments are the most stable. They don't have huge organizational teams. They're the ones who maintain a strategic point of view even when things around them are uncertain. When your executive team looks at you during a volatile moment, they're not just asking, what should we say? They're assessing whether you have a handle on the bigger picture. Whether your counsel reflects an understanding of the business, not just a reaction to the moment. And if you stop planning, if your strategy only exists in your head or in last year's deck collecting dust somewhere, you are walking into those moments without the foundation that you need to advise at the level you want to be advising. And that's not a planning problem. That's a leadership problem. And it's fixable. You can address that right now. So here's what I want you to take from this. Long-term planning is not dead. Volatile environments don't kill the need for strategy. They make it harder and more necessary at the same time. And the leaders who stay in planning mode, even in an imperfect, scenario-based version of it, are the ones who maintain their authority when it counts. They're the ones who get bigger teams, bigger budgets, get invited into the rooms that matter, and grow their careers right alongside their influence. Next episode, we're going deeper on something I think that's actually the bigger issue for most of you. The strategy that's still living in your head. Because having a plan and having it as a documented plan that's actually being deployed in practice are not the same thing. And the difference matters. It matters a lot. We've got a whole field to elevate, my friends. And you play a bigger part in that than you might recognize. Until next time, keep advising. Always keep advising. If you're interested in working with me to advance your work and your team's reputation as critical business advisors, never order takers, check out TaraMcDonagh.com. Thanks for listening to the Communications Business Advisor podcast. If you found this episode helpful, please leave a rating or a review. It helps people find us, and we can't ignite a movement without sharing the message. See you next time, where we'll continue to do the work to elevate our field's reputation and elevate the careers of the people in it. I created Raise the Tide to help elevate our field and the women in it. It's part community, part coaching, part professional development, and part mentorship. It encompasses all of these things because it takes all of these things to rise in your career. I asked a few Raise the Tide crew members to share what their experiences have been like in the program, and here's what they had to say. What's one thing that's been surprising to you about Raise the Tide?
I honestly was surprised by how quickly I felt part of something really unique and special.
Something that surprised me about being in Raise the Tide is just how much I feel seen. My crew holds up a mirror for me and even helps me see myself in ways that I haven't before. It's extremely validating, and it's a pretty powerful experience.
I was really nervous at first about how would I gel with everybody else in the group, and would we really get to know each other, and would we really become close? It's amazing how suddenly they become your biggest group of cheerleaders and your biggest advocates and the ones pushing for you and rooting for you. And that was really surprising to me.
If you're interested in this program, head on over to TaraMcDonagh.com and complete the Raise the Tide form. A rising tide raises all ships, but we're not the ships. Together, we're the force of the tide, raising the ships for our entire industry.